Can you keep a secret?
Changing hearts and minds.
Changing hearts and minds.
Welcome to Change Your POV podcast. You're listening to Changing Hearts and Minds, a show about reviving the warrior spirit and remembering the past to improve our future. I'm your host, Geoff Dardia&nbsp. Let's get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I totally screwed or what? You're funny.
I want to discuss all this behavior.
Let me out of here!
Hey guys, welcome to Changing Hearts and Minds. I am your host, Geoff, here on the Change Your POV podcast network. We're going to change things up a little bit today. We're going to talk something a little bit more serious, a little bit more health conscious, and we're going to come from the soft point of view on this. So let's pretend that you're a soft guy. You've been out there in the world fighting, running and gunning, and let's just say you're anybody that's been downrange. You start coming home and you start not to feel right. All right, things aren't working the way they used to. You're getting angry. You're getting upset. You haven't had any kind of injuries that you know of, but things are just changing. You don't feel well. Well, you can go on medicine and get yourself better that way if it's something that's normal, but what if it's not something that medicine's going to cure? What if it's something that medicine's going to make worse if you have to take this medicine long term? What do you do then? What do you do when there are no answers from regular medicine? What do you do if the medicine you're actually taking may be the stuff that's causing you to be sick? So this is where this next guest comes in. What we have today, we have Geoff Dardia. He is the founding director of the Special Operations Forces Health Initiatives Program, Task Force Dagger Foundation. Full disclosure, me and Geoff Dardia have known each other for years, so there may be a little bit of familiarity between us when we bring him on. And I'm not going to give you guys any more than telling you he's the founding director and that he spent 9 years on an SOF ODA, that's Special Forces Operational Detachment Alpha, and 3rd Special Forces Group. Geoff, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
How you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. Just got back from learning a new language, so my brain's pretty smoked, but we're ready to roll.
Oh, that's fine. Your brain being smoked and my brain at its best are still probably not even close to each other. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Welcome to the show, Geoff. I'm glad you came on today, and I want you to go ahead and take a little bit of a moment to tell our listeners a little bit about you and how you got involved in the SOF Health Initiative.
Okay, so my entire career I've been in the SOF community, and I never wanted to be near a doctor, just always trying to do my job and be the best I could. And then at a certain point in time in my career, around 2007, I started noticing big changes after my second deployment, and then started in a lot of shooting schools, Sephardic, Cephalic. I did Sephardic and 2 Cephalics for listeners. That's Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat, and Sephardic being an advanced shooting school. I'll leave it at that.
And that's where me and Geoff know each other from initially.
Yeah. So I went through all these schools and deployments. All of a sudden, it was a big change in my health, where I started noticing I wasn't living and thriving like I used to. I was existing. I started struggling learning new information, and then fatigue, like I don't know how to explain it, just dragging a dead body. And, we do what we always do is, hey, we just work out harder and try harder, and, things will get better. And then more caffeine, power through, and then more deployments. When you deploy more, you don't notice all the problems you have because you're in the environment you conditioned to. So I got back after my 3rd deployment in 2009 and started working as a Cephalic instructor. And immediately upon working there, all of a sudden things just started downward spiraling. My health, relationships, work performance, everything started, tanking. And I couldn't figure it out. And that was the first time I ever went to a doctor, besides being injured for stuff, to ask. I think something's wrong.
Let's take a minute to I want to dig into a little bit of that, Geoff. What kind of things? You don't have to give all the different stuff, but what were kind of the specific things that you were noticing that were different, and maybe even the ones that you didn't notice at first, but started really building up that caused all these issues?
The first thing that started happening was fatigue and short-term memory problems. Right off the bat, just not remembering things. You tell me something once, I got it, and you wouldn't have to show me twice or tell me twice. But it was like nothing was sticking in my brain. And then having conversations with people or doing things and not remember saying them or doing them. It was like someone hit the erase button, and then they would call you on and be like, "Hey, do you remember when I told you that?" And you're like, "No, I don't remember." And it became one of those things where it was like, "No, I told you," and you don't think you're, not remember. You think maybe it's them. When you work around a bunch of people who have the same issues, you can see where it could be a problem.
Right, right.
All of us are going through the same thing at the same time. So it caused a lot of strife, and people that don't know you, they'll be quick to judge on things. But it went to that, to the fatigue. It went to the confidence, losing your confidence as an operator, noticing that things you used to do before without hesitation, you'd think twice on. Like, do I really feel safe doing this? Or, one of the biggest things was when I worked at the range doing all the breaching was getting home. Like, you forget, like, you get there and you're like, holy crap, how many red lights did I just go through? How long did it take me to get home? I don't remember getting home. And then you get home and then you just walk in the door and you stare at the wall and you're like just so smoked from, doing everything all day. Your head's pounding, your ears are ringing, and you just have no focus or clarity of what you're supposed to be doing. It went to that. And then it went to, sex drive. That's, the two things that make an SF guy tick was, when you're not fighting, you're doing the other F words, right?
Yeah, right.
But when you come home after working in that environment and those things weren't working the way they were supposed to, most people just they turn to self-medication with alcohol or other stuff to forget about that, or just use it as an excuse why nothing's working.
Right, and a lot of that stuff you would say could bleed over into your relationship where your partner does not understand why you've gone from being somebody who just wants to fucking fight all the time and turning around to be someone who just wants to fight and fighting probably because you're frustrated with yourself, but maybe them thinking there's something wrong with them, and it ends up affecting the relationship as a whole.
Yeah, they take it personal. Hey, you're not attracting me, or you're cheating on me. It always goes back to them. They take it worse than we do. And in your mind, you're like, man, like, I wish that was the case, but I can't do those things that you think I'm doing. So
right.
It wasn't that issue, but that adds more stress on top of what you're already dealing with your health. But like I said, when you're deployed, you don't notice any of that stuff. But when you come home, it hits you in the face like a shovel.
Right.
And then the garrison environment, zero defect environment, task saturation. And, when you're in combat, you condition for that environment. It's real black and white. You go out, you handle business, you come back, you eat, you work out, and you go to sleep. And you just repeat every day. And when you come home, it's kids, it's family, it's bills, it's responsibilities, it's work. It's in charge of 50 students on the range, in charge of their safety, in charge of ordering ammo, ordering demo, setting up the ranges, the POIs. It's doing all that stuff. And your brain is not wired anymore to handle all those different tasks. And it's not like you can tell somebody, no, I can't do these things. You're an SF guy. You just make it happen. True. So no one wants to say, they just suck it up and do it. And no one ever realizes it's a problem for people. So, but like I said, it went from all those little things. All of a sudden it was heart pain, heart palpitations. It was rashes. It was headaches, migraines, double vision, blurry vision, balance problems. I fell through my shower door. I closed my eyes to put shampoo on my head and fell through my shower door.
The funny thing is you're telling that story, and I was just telling someone the other day about how that happened to me a few times.
Yeah.
And just so if you guys are picking up on this who have listened to me before and talk a lot of the stuff that Geoff, and this is not by design. It's not Geoff and Geoff hour here. Geoff Dardia is with a G and I'm with a J. But we both had the same symptoms. The only difference was I had the ability of being injured, and then they identified those symptoms with an injury that I had, where Geoff's slowly built up on him without him even knowing that, with no injury to associate it with.
Right. Absolutely. And that was the most frustrating part. Had I had a Purple Heart, it would have been no question. All the tests would have been done. But when I first went to the doctor in 2009, I told him, I was like, look, I have fatigue. I have, low sex drive. I have short-term memory problems. And they're like, all right, you're stressed. You want to try Adderall? You want to do you have ADHD, or do you want Viagra? It was just a pill. Like, take the pill, go back to work, and make it work. It wasn't, okay, let's dive into this. If a helicopter diagnostic light comes on, you don't just say, okay, just throw some fluid in and we'll keep flying. They pull it down, they check everything out. Then from there, they diagnose the issue, they fix it, while it's offline. And then when it's 100% up, they put it back online. They don't do that to us. The check engine lights come on, they put tape over it or smash it with a sledgehammer and then put you back full force and full time. There is no downtime. They expect 110% out of you performing optimal with suboptimal health. That can't happen. We do it, and then eventually it comes to a point where you just hit a brick wall and your career crumbles around you and you lose your family. You end up with all the D's, the DUIs, the domestic violence, the divorces, the depression. You get all the D's. And then they're like, you went from an awesome soldier to all of a sudden you're a turd, and let's get you out of the military. And so that's why guys don't seek help. They're like, well, gut it out. I didn't seek help from 2007. I went in 2009. I was basically brushed off and then gutted out till 2012, where it was so unbearable. I was like, I don't care anymore. I don't care about my career. I've already lost everything else. So I'm going to go get fixed. I'm focusing on me for once. And I did. And it, luckily for me, I had a PA that listened, and he's like, I got nothing to lose. I got nothing to prove. I'm not trying to get a star. I'm not trying to climb up the ladder. I'll go look. If you think this stuff's legit, let's go look for it. And he ordered all the labs. And that's when I started looking at all the hormones and everything. All I did was look at the symptoms. I did what, any SF guy would do, problem solve. So isolate and troubleshoot, look at what was happening, identify the problems, come up with a solution, and reverse engineer everything I was exposed to in my environment, heavy metals, blast, overpressure, prescription drugs like antibiotics, look, all the stuff from being a diver for, my whole career, ears messed up, and then being around blast and overpressure, all those things that go along with it. I just went and looked for all the neurological damage that those things in my environment caused and found all of it. And it came back, and I was at first, they told me, never forget, I'm not going to mention the name of the surgeon, but he's like, if we keep looking, we're going to find things that are wrong. And I was like, what? What did you just tell me?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I raised my hand and said I have a problem, it's probably already too late. Most of the time with guys, by the time they raise their hand and said need help, they're already in a bad situation. And when they were like, it's not a big deal, or you're normal, your labs look normal, that's the worst thing you can tell someone who's contemplating killing themselves.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. If you can't get an answer to what's wrong with you, then you are the only problem. And we're in the business of making solutions, not making problems.
Exactly. And when you figure out that I can't come up with a solution or anything, you're like, all right, I'm no good to myself, I'm no good to my family, no good to my unit, no good to my teammates. You go through all that. You just lose your mission, your purpose, and your focus. And that's what kills guys, especially after they retire or they get injured. They get pulled away from that team environment, that family environment, that we spend more time with our teammates than our own family. And when you get pulled out of that environment, it's a shock, because you've conditioned to work in a team environment, in a high stress, high threat environment. You come home to Fort living room, and all of a sudden you're flapping. You don't have that pack security. You don't have that pack mentality. You're always looking over your shoulder because you don't know who's got your back. That's what it is. It's a pack mentality. You've conditioned to work in that team environment. You always hear it with spouses or girlfriends. They'll always be like, why can't we do anything just me and you? Why don't you want to be alone, just me and you? Because that's not your environment. You're used to being in a team environment. When you're with your teammates, you have no worry in the world. Someone's always got your back. So you're relaxed. You're in an environment where, okay, I don't have to worry about anything. But when you're with your family, your kids, that you're on work mode. You're in protect mode. You're scanning everything, looking for anyone threatening your family. And you're number one man by yourself in the room because you don't have your teammates there. So after injury, you're dealing with all that stuff. Plus, if you have any damage to the brain, you have neuroendocrine dysfunction, hormone imbalances, you got stuff going on with your immune system. It's going to amplify all those things you're already going through. And especially the biggest thing is if you have no understanding of what's happened to you, you cannot even come close to beginning to fix it. If
Right.
You know what's happened to you, why it happened to you, and it's a perfectly normal response for the body to have that happen, you can work and go back to where you were before. But if you have nothing to start with or no clue of which direction to go, you're going to be fighting yourself that entire time. Plus, you're going to be fighting everything in your environment, your relationships, your teammates, your supervisors. It's going to be butting heads everywhere you go because, one, you can't even get along with yourself, let alone anyone else. And when that happens, we see it all the time in our community. We know because we lived it.
Right.
And when no one has that understanding of, okay, this guy was at this level before. He's got all these deployments, all these awards. He's done all these good things. Now, why is he a turd? Why is he the guy, that nobody wants to be around? Or what is it? No one even thinks of it. Like, they just write him off immediately without, coming up with, hey, we know this guy got blown up 3 times. He's done 9 deployments. He's not trying to get at anything. Matter of fact, the only time he ever does good is when he's deployed. That should be a huge red flag.
Right, that's what I was going to bring up. That we have a big problem with guys who have no issues when they're deployed, when they're at home, and that seems to be something that I think we miss we used to miss in that look. Is we don't war is supposed to be the worst of the environments that we ever are in. We hate war. The reason why we fight wars is because we want them to be over. Yet we get to the point where we'd rather be there than home, and it's not because we don't love what's at home. It's just because we feel better when we're there. And
absolutely,
that's an indication of what I would call addiction. You don't tell a heroin addict when they're coming off heroin, hey, you don't feel good? Why don't I just give you a little bit of shot of heroin? So yet we still put these guys back in these situations. But let's go back to something, not go back, but I want to dig into a little bit of what you said before when you were talking about not knowing what was wrong with us. This goes back to something that came up in the news a couple years ago, and that I know you and the SOF Health Initiative really dove into and really got behind. And one of the things I really applauded you guys for, we got put on this medicine when we got deployed initially. You want to go in and talk to you a little bit about this anti-malaria drug, unfortunately prescribed to us?
Yeah. So you're talking about mefloquine or Lariam.
Yeah, Lariam. Yep.
So just to give you a quick idea, this drug was developed by the military at Walter Reed for an anti-malaria. As everyone knows, that anti-malarials, malaria is one of the biggest killers. It kills hundreds of thousands of people a year in Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was obviously a big threat to the military. And so when they put this out, is this, hey, when they developed the drug, they already knew from the beginning it was dangerous. It was causing psychological problems. In the literature from the research, caused psychiatric issues. But they tested on a limited prison population, and the study wasn't done right. The drug was rushed to get into production because a lot of the pills, like the chloroquine they were using in Africa, was not effective. So they rushed this drug in, they pushed it out, and they never did any real long-term studies. Didn't even know the exact mechanism of action for the drug or how it worked. They just knew it killed this form of malaria. So they put it in there.
Was there a particular reason why they were rushing to get it out so fast?
I don't know if it was because of the threat or the perceived threat or the inflated or the hype threat of what it was, but they had problems straight from the beginning. I mean, I did a ton of research in this and worked with the people that fought to get this thing out of the military. And this was a known dangerous drug from the beginning. Even the chloroquine drugs in Vietnam were dangerous.
Right.
And these drugs work off, they stop the synthesis of bacteria for DNA. So they stop. It's like actually mefloquine itself causes the bacteria to become toxic and kill itself.
Okay.
Other drugs like fluoroquinolones, like Cipro, right? Everyone knows about Cipro. It stops DNA synthesis, DNA gyrase. So it damages DNA everywhere it accumulates in the body. It kills bacteria.
Geoff, are you telling me that an antibiotic that we're given all the time that's supposed to be really good for us is something that's also stopping our DNA from fixing itself?
Yes, that's actually how it kills the bacteria. So absolutely. The problem is most people, you always hear about, hey, I tolerated this drug fine. Well, if you metabolize quick, things go in and out fast the way they're supposed to, your body will get rid of this stuff. It's a poison. It'll do its job and get out and not build up to toxic levels. Well, everyone has a different toxic threshold. But what they found is that if you're a slow metabolizer and these drugs build up in organs in your body, like your brain, your kidneys, your liver, they do extensive damage. That's why you have to do a liver function test prior to taking them, because they're hard on the liver and kidneys. So when some people took these drugs, they had, vivid dreams, right? Lucid dreaming. They got anger. They got paranoia real bad. Well, one, they were never told of the possible adverse effects. Everyone just knew it caused crazy dreams.
Right.
But they weren't told that was an adverse effect that needed to be reported, and you had to stop taking the medication immediately if that happened. Wow. None of that was put out to us.
No, definitely not put out.
Yeah, the drug was supposed to be issued in the original package with a warning wallet warning card, and you were supposed to be pre-screened prior to ever taking it. That went all the way through till 2013, and then 2013, one of the newer policies came out that said if you had any type of psychiatric or behavioral health issue or any TBI prior, you were not allowed to take that drug. Only if it was life-threatening and you couldn't tolerate doxycycline or Malarone. So that information never got put out to any of us as well. There were still guys taking it, still people taking it right now, where, this stuff could have been causing, mimicking or overlapping symptoms that were getting blamed on PTSD or TBI. It affects the limbic system especially, so that is all your behavior. It causes brainstem damage. Wherever it accumulates, it damages. So that's pretty important function for people working in our field. But the one thing I want to let you in on is that pilots and divers are not allowed to use this. If you're a pilot, you put one pill of Larium and methquin in your mouth, you are barred from flight status until you go through a full review. Pilots are not allowed to take it because it causes spatial disorientation, depth perception, and balance problems. So how is this acceptable for a special operator whose life depends on, split-second decision-making and working at an aircraft, working with weapons, working at night with night vision? You think night vision, depth perception, spatial orientation probably might be an important thing.
Right.
So this never, ever been allowed to use, ever. Plus, you look at the fact that, okay, you're going to do a prophylaxis. You're going to put people on a drug in the intent to prevent them from getting malaria. Well, if you go to Africa, they don't take anti-malarials every single day. They get malaria, then they treat it. If you're giving a drug that it does damage to the body, especially now, they know these drugs do damage, and you make them take them for 6 to 9 months for 14 deployments, you think you might be doing some damage somewhere.
Yes, yeah. The one study I had read once you started putting all this stuff out, Geoff, was the fact that methaquin, Larium, was designed initially or intended initially to be a treatment plan, and much like Cipro or some of those harder antibiotics, it was a 3 to 5 day treatment of this your disease or whatever you were exposed to by this drug. And yet, gentlemen like you, myself, and a lot of the guys who've been in group or on teams from the beginning, we would spend 6 to 8 months on this stuff. And
yes.
Every Monday we would go into chow halls. This stuff would be in the bowls at the chow halls for us on Mondays to have. And everyone would joke and laugh about how for the next 2 days I'm going to have crazy dreams. And so it's kind of chilling when you think about it, where you talk about how the dreams are a disqualifier for you having these, but yet all of us had these dreams. And you think
Yes.
about these guys who came back who were completely normal and went off the hinges and hurt themselves or their family members. And
Yes.
one of the last things people ever said they remembered was talking to them and start having them tell people that they had started not being able to tell the difference between reality and when they were dreaming. And just so people can understand, I'm here to tell you that I don't have I'm not one of these people that always remembers my dreams, ever. And the only time in my entire life I ever remembered my dreams was when I was taking methaquin. And it was scary to not know whether or not you were awake or asleep.
It caused dissociation. That's one of the side effects. It's on the black box warning label. Dissociation, psychosis, paranoia, all of them. It's permanent brain damage. That's all in the FDA black box warning label.
So we find out this stuff, and through your self investigation and you pushing to make sure you got better, you start finding out that that these things are happening from these drugs, and not just that, but that your hormone levels and your heavy metal levels are a little off. Let's talk a little bit about the hormone levels that you were finding that were off, and the buildup of heavy metals such as lead and stuff like that you guys were finding in some of these guys when you guys started pushing for people to get checked.
Okay, so that was one of the first things I found was myself having low testosterone. I was 32 at the time, and my testosterone levels were in the 200s. I was told that was normal. They didn't even show me the number. I did the lab, I believe it was in 2009, right when I got back from Afghanistan. I was at, I think, 266 nanograms per deciliter. The reference range started at 300 then. And I was told nothing to worry about, you're perfectly normal. So I didn't even think twice about that ever again until 2012 when I started checking again. And it came back at, 280, 260s, 301. I was told nothing to worry about, it's perfectly normal. But it wasn't until I learned about, low testosterone and primary and secondary hypogonadism that to look at the loop, to look at pituitary hormones or testicular function. So I got all the hormones checked, pituitary, and I got a semen analysis done. I was dead in the water. I was pretty much sterile, and my pituitary wasn't doing crap. It actually flagged for an MRI because my prolactin anterior pituitary hormone was so low, it flagged for a tumor. Sure enough, I got an MRI, came back with a lesion on my pituitary gland. And that flagged from nothing's wrong with you to all of a sudden you can't dive, you can't jump. We're going to put you on profile. So I ended up, I had a lesion, and then I'm like, okay, what does this mean? What is it? Is it cancer? Do I have a tumor? They couldn't tell me anything. Like, oh, you could have been born with it. And I was like, wait a minute. I've never had any problems in my life with any of this stuff until recently. How could I have been born with this? I wouldn't be here right now.
Well, not just that, but you're dive qualified. You're Halo qualified. You've gone through special forces training. This is something that would have been picked up at some point, I think, right?
Yeah. So yeah, man, I went through the ringer, the toughest programs the military had to offer, and nothing. I've been through every physical they had, and all of a sudden, these things started showing. It got put on me. Are you drinking? Are you taking drugs? It was all the things that it wasn't. Hey, where are you working? What do you do? What's your specialty? If you look at the environment I was working in, SOF, 16 classes, over 2,400 log charges in a 2-year period as a SOF instructor.
Right.
SOF and 2 SOF classes. Before that, they didn't even ask. You look at going through SOF, graduating SOF, and then immediately going 2 back-to-back SOFs, and then a PMT, and then a deployment, coming back and becoming a SOF instructor. There's heavy metal exposure, tons, and then blast overpressure, TBI, and then, jumping out of aircraft all the time. None of that was even brought up of, by the way, all those things are neurotoxic. Heavy metals are neurotoxic. TBI, neurotoxic injury. None of that was even brought up of what could have been potentially causing those problems. It was, okay, you have these symptoms, let's match this cluster of symptoms to this diagnosis. By the way, it wasn't TBI. They diagnosed me with fatigue and a possible pituitary tumor. And then it was, do you want shots or cream for testosterone? And then you might think about looking at a med board or medical retirement. I'm like, first of all, you just told me I got a damn tumor on in my brain. I was like, I want to fix this. I want to make this go away. I don't, they didn't tell me anything. Just let me leave the doctor's office with, you have something on your pituitary gland. It's the size of a pea. If you have something on it, it's your master gland. It's probably going to affect a lot of stuff. So it wasn't looking at it. So once I learned about, the pituitary stuff, that's when I said, full force, I'm diving into this. I'm doing my own research. I'm done with this military medical system. I'm done. It is disease management, disease care, symptom management. There was no resolving anything. It was just, this is your ball and chain. Take it. Take your drugs that go along it, and then see you later. Let the VA deal with you.
Right.
Wasn't, hey, we damaged you. Let's do everything we can to fix you. It was this. This is what I got told verbatim. This is way above me. Way above me. So I got a referral out to UNC, Duke. And I went or Chapel Hill. I went up Chapel Hill, and I went to a diabetic clinic, endocrinology, and there was 65-year-old people, obese people, and diabetic people. No athletes in there, and they didn't know what they were dealing with. They were like, we'll give you testosterone. That'll solve everything. I'm like, no. I'm done. So at that time, as luck would have it, one of my buddies reached out. He's like, you need to get a Care Coalition advocate. So I got an advocate, and as fate would have it, this advocate knew about a new field of medicine development called functional medicine. It wasn't development. It was just new to the conventional system. And he told me about it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is common sense stuff. This is connect the dots, full systems medicine. It looks at the entire body and every system working together. I'm like, this makes sense to me. I work on old cars. I know systems in cars, they all work together. One system goes down, the whole car goes down. I'm like, we're no different. So I learned how to do this stuff through my provider. He taught me how this stuff worked, how it worked together, how your environment, your lifestyle, and your genetic factors directly impact your health.
And this was your functional provider, that the one you met through the Care Coalition?
Yes.
And was this person in the military system, or was this a doctor that was a referral?
It was a private provider, not even a referral, because TRICARE didn't even look at this back then. It was pretty much pay out of your own pocket. That's how I got Task Force Dagger to start doing all this stuff. I'll go into how I got hooked up with Task Force Dagger to help Mark Holbrook and Dave Smith after they got injured.
Right.
Myself and Scott Gronowski took them diving, and then we ended up basically becoming part of the foundation. And at that time, that's when I started having all my health issues. That was in 2011. And so the foundation ended up helping me pay for those treatments that basically saved my life. And so I was like, okay, if this can undo all that crap. By the way, I didn't have the pituitary lesion anymore. It fixed it. I was like, if I have this, everybody's got this, because I know where I work. We're not exempt from our environment and our lifestyle. This is going to have an impact. So I started asking other people if they were dealing with the same type of issues. And they're like, how the hell did you know? They're like, we just don't say anything. And it became, this wasn't sporadic. This wasn't isolated. This was widespread to everyone I knew in the community, being there forever. They're like, yeah, we have all the same issues. And no one had told them what it possibly could be from. So I started getting other people like, hey, go get these labs done. Just let's see what it looks like. Everyone came back with low testosterone, low cortisol, low vitamin D, and then I went from there to be like, what about the neurological damage that TBI causes in heavy metals, the balance problems, vestibular damage, binocular vision disorder, all the convergence, divergence, and accommodation issues. And we started, all our friends, inner circle, got it done, and we all had the same stuff. And so I had to get it documented by the military. So I didn't want to go in the TBI pipeline because I knew I'd get flagged. I knew if they found all that stuff, I'd get flagged for my next deployment. Didn't want to miss my next deployment. Right. So I got a PA, like I said, who was helping me before. He's like, I'll write the referrals for all this stuff. So he got me all the referrals to neurooptometry, to all the vestibular testing, the reactive hearing test at Clark. I got them all done. They all came back abnormal. So now I had all this evidence stacked up, and it went from, okay, there was nothing wrong with you, to, oh, this is just a fluke. You look fine. It wasn't, holy crap, how'd this happen? Let's look at other people. It was, what do you want from us?
My favorite line right there is, you look fine.
Yeah.
You look fine. That statement in and of itself goes into the maniacal statement of, what are you doing? Drugs, or are you drinking?
Yeah. I wish I'd lost a limb, because if I had been missing a limb, there would have been no issues. Right. I would have been taken care of.
Right. But as horrible as that is to say, with some people being like, oh my God, how would you like? But there's a difference between having a visual injury that people can identify with, and then having injuries that only you are able to identify with, and having everyone outside second guess whether or not you actually, or there's something wrong with you.
Yes, absolutely. And that was the most frustrating thing. It was like, what do I have to do? Do I have to go down range and step on a friggin' IED to get taken care of? That went through my mind. I turned down Purple Hearts. My first deployment, I got shot in the helmet, and had my hair lit on fire. Like I had a hand grenade blow up 5 feet from me. Right. I didn't get Purple Hearts. That was one of the things you didn't want that. But looking back at it now, you're like, that would have made a huge difference. Having that Purple Heart would have made all the difference in the world to the level of care I would have received, and the level of attention I would have received for my care. And that was one of the biggest obstacles. And I guarantee you, if you ask any guy in the same boat that doesn't have a Purple Heart, they would have been doing the same thing. They would have been like, I wish I was missing a foot or a finger or something. So that way I could get taken.
You're on the phone right now with a guy who has gone through moments where I was like, I wish that there was something missing, so that I didn't get the looks from people of, hey, what, you have PTSD, you have TBI, you're getting out. Only because you and I were both going through this at the same time. I had the benefit of having the injury that was noted, and so that I was getting not pushed out, but I was getting moved out while you were staying in, struggling with the same things I was struggling with. Yet you didn't have the benefit of everyone behind you, at least in the medical sense of understanding that you were injured. There were so many guys that were going through the same exact thing, who didn't want to have those things happen to them, and then they looked at guys like me and some of the other guys who were getting medically boarded and put out of the military, and it scares the hell out of guys like us when you get taken away from everything in your life that you want to do.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I've been in the same unit my entire career. I've switched parking lots. That's it. I've been at where we work together. I've never PCS'd. I've never left. I got intergroup transferred to go be a CFAO instructor, and I got attached to USSOCOM Care Coalition for like 9 months while I was going through my chelation for heavy metals. But I still was on jump status. I was on dive status. I've never come off, never been on profile, and I've been through all of this. And like I said, if you don't have that, profile, or you have that Purple Heart, and people just look at you like, this isn't a big deal. And then even when I found all the stuff, I found the heavy metals, I found the TBI, it was still can't be that bad. You're still performing at this level. I don't know how to explain it, but when you still perform at a good level, people are like, oh, there's nothing wrong. But when you're performing at a level below what you're used to, you're dragging a dead body. You feel stupid.
You feel like, you just can't get out of bed every day. You can't focus on anything, but you're still performing at a level above most people in the Army, right?
Right.
So nothing wrong. When we do neurocognitive testing, of course, when we came in the military, we had a higher GT score. We had a higher ASVAB. We worked in a higher level of mental capacity. So when we have a 30% deficit, we still score above average compared to the 32 ASVAB guy, dragging his knuckles. We are still going to be above average even when we're suffering. So there is no established baseline on someone when we came in. So there's nothing to compare it to. When you look at an MRI in the brain, as long as you don't have an aneurysm or a tumor, there's something missing. It's not going to show anything if you don't have a baseline and a comparative quantitative MRI to see before and after. You have to be able to track these things to show shrinking in the brain, change in brain area and brain matter, lesions, how many, getting worse or, getting better. There's nothing that you look at an MRI, it looks like a photograph from the 1960s. Nothing major here. You're normal. You know how many people with TBI had MRIs and were told they have normal brains when they're far from it?
Right.
Like when I hear the word mild, when I hear mild TBI, I want to punch somebody.
Right.
I'm like, it's mild TBI. If it ruins marriages, if it ruins careers, it causes suicide and all those things, it's not mild.
No, it's not.
No. And I'm like, that's an oxymoron, mild brain damage. If you damage the brain, it's going to damage everything in your life. And that's a fact. And when we got out, I learned about MRIs and brain imaging. I learned about DTI, functional MRIs. I learned about QSPECT or SPECT imaging. QSPECT looks at the cell, every cell in the brain activity for oxygen and blood flow and delivery. And when I had that imaging done, they looked at it and they were like, whoa, they're like, this doesn't add up. They're like, what we're seeing and hearing with you does not look like the brain we're looking at on our screen in front of us. It was damage to all 5 areas of the brain, significant damage. And it wasn't mild at all. And then they said, look, do you have carbon monoxide poisoning? You look like you have carbon monoxide poisoning. And they're like, this is toxicity of the brain. You have toxic encephalopathy. This was last year. And I'm like, yeah, I was exposed to heavy metals every day for my entire career, in deployment and then back home training, doing all this stuff. Every day I was shooting a weapon, handling a weapon, cleaning a weapon, or being in these, areas, arms rooms. You're breathing that shit in. It's all contaminated.
Well, let's talk about that real quick, Geoff. What are the kind of things, because a lot of people don't understand the day-to-day stuff that these veterans are getting themselves exposed to. Things like, burning lithium batteries in the burn pit and just the fumes from explosives and from carbon. And so let's talk about some of the things that are going to be picking these guys toxicity levels up that they're not aware of.
All right. First, we'll go over occupational, then we'll go over deployment.
Okay.
So occupational, being anything in a combat MOS that handles weapons, indirect fire weapons, direct fire weapons like mortars and recoilless rifles, artillery. Think of the size of an artillery round and how much propellant pushes that thing out. All of those propellants and primers and rounds are full of carcinogenic heavy metals, all of them toxic, by the way, but half of them are carcinogens. When you cause those things to explode and propel that round out, that cloud of gas that you're breathing and handling and being around all day has cancer-causing metals in it. No if, and, or but about it. They're in there. Arsenic, mercury, cadmium, chromium, tungsten, nickel, all those antimony, all those metals are in the munitions. They're in the propellers, the propellants and the primers. They're there, whether it be a 9mm round, whether it be a 7.62 or a 5.56 or a 60mm, 120mm mortar. All of that munition contains cancer-causing heavy metals. Fact, not speculation, fact. You're doing that your entire career. So guess what happens with your uniform and your equipment, your body armor? Contaminated. Guess what happens when you don't have a laundry facility at work to wash all those uniforms? You take them home. Guess what happens when you eat after handling all those things? You put it directly into your bloodstream. All those things, right? That's your occupational side.
Right.
Let's go into deployment. You go to Afghanistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Africa, the most polluted countries on the planet. They don't have EPA. They burn all their trash. They incinerate everything. That's where it's all coming from. It's in the environment. Afghanistan still uses tetraethyl lead in their fuel. It's a lead additive, anti-ping agent they put in the fuel that is in there. It's lead. you are breathing all those exhaust fumes from the local fuel, the generators. It's in the soil, it's in the dirt, it's in the air. You're soaking up all those toxins.
This is a type of fuel that's been illegal in the first world of the entire world since like the late 60s.
1978.
78 was okay.
That's 78. That's when they stopped using it in the United States. But Avgas still uses lead additives for anti-knock. So it's there. It's in the environment. They burn all their trash. They burn batteries. We burned them. They were in the burn pits. Friggin' 5590s, right? All those batteries were burning in these piles. There's lead in there. All those heavy metals I mentioned before, they're in there. And you are breathing them in. The entire deployment, they're there. And they're never checked. We don't get those things checked. If you run a heavy metals lab now, because it's starting to catch on, they're going to look at mercury, arsenic, and lead. There are over 14 different metals in your munitions. They're only looking at 3. Well, they're only looking at 1. If you force them to look, they'll look at mercury and arsenic as well.
Oh, but Geoff, doesn't all these metals, they'll eventually come out of your system, right? They don't
just leave, just go away from the range. They go away, right?
Right. Is that correct?
Not the case. Absolutely not. Most of these metals, they mimic or replace other metals in your body. Prime example is lead. Your body thinks lead is calcium. So every system in the body that uses calcium, which is every system in the body, lead disrupts, mimics, or damages. So the first things that are damaged when lead goes in the body, it's renal, it's your kidneys, it's your blood vessels, endothelial dysfunction. That's why it causes hypertension at blood levels between 2 and 5 micrograms, not 40 or 50. And then you go up from renal damage, you go into cardiovascular issues. And then after cardiovascular, it's neurological. So we were told 40 and below, fine, leave the range, it'll go away. 95% of the lead you breathe in stores in your body, minimum 10 years to indefinite. That's proven through research. That's not speculation. The VA did a huge study with bone lead levels in 2009, and they associated elevated bone lead levels with a 2.5-fold increase in mortality, 6-fold increase of cardiovascular death, 8-fold increase of ischemic heart disease. Let that sink in. So number one killer in the United States is heart disease, but add all the other stuff on top of it. We're not even talking just lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium, chromium. All the chromium's in your barrels, right? So all those things that are shredding down when bullets are flying through at over 2,800 feet per second and vaporizing, you're breathing in. Watch any slow motion video of someone shooting a rifle, especially a gas direct system where the gas is escaping out the back of your charging handle directly in your mouth, your eyes, and your nose. You're breathing that in the entire time you're shooting. That stuff can damage your lungs, causes lung cancer. Cadmium causes lung cancer. Arsenic, all those things cause cancer. And imagine a guy who goes through a shooting school, shoots over 10,000 rounds in his school. Add that up over your whole career. Those things accumulate in tissues and organs in your brain. They're doing damage the entire time they're in there. There's no safe amount of heavy metals in the body. None. That's a fallacy. They have what they think are toxic thresholds, but there's no safe amount. None of that is safe. So there's no safe form of it either. All of it does damage.
And so you take all these things and you pile them on top of the normal mental and physical stresses that are going to come from just being a combat or any military person at any time. And these things start to pile up and really start to cause some severe issues that are not just attributed to one thing or another, are they?
Exactly. So let's use an example, right? So we're sending a guy to Afghanistan, right? So we go in. He's on antimalarials, right? He's got to take doxycycline every single day. What do you think that does to the kidneys and the liver?
That's going to lower the ability for those things to function correctly.
There you go. So there's one thing. Let's add stress on top of that. Let's add no sleep on top of that. Then let's add dehydration and 140 degrees on top of that, wearing 110 pounds of kit. Okay. Let's add on top of that Red Bull. Let's Rip-Its. Let's add all the caffeine and the diuretics, all the stuff that causes more strain on the kidneys, right? Then let's add the food they're eating packed full of sodium, too much sodium, and it's all sugar, causes inflammation, right?
Right.
All right. Then let's add blast and overpressure. What happens when you shoot a Carl Gustav, right? Rapid overpressure.
Turns your insides into soup.
Bingo. There you go. More damage to the organs. So think about this. If anyone tries to argue that fact, what happens when you open a Pepsi after it's been shaken around? You turn a liquid into gas, back to liquid. Rapid over, under, back, right? Equalization. What do you think happens when you shoot something that shatters glass that's over 5 psi, what it's doing to your organs and your brain all at the same time, rapid, over and over and over again, right? So we put all those things on there. Then breathing in the toxic gases on top of it. You think the body's getting stressed a little bit? It's getting a little bit of damage? Absolutely. None of those things were ever looked at as accumulative and compounding. You're missing a leg, we'll get you a prosthetic. You're missing an arm, we'll get you a hook. It's not that you've been beat up and blown up for 20 years. Every system in your body's been taxed. You don't have a circadian rhythm. You don't have regular deep sleep anymore. Your body's full of inflammation, and your brain is not working the way it's supposed to. Your nervous system's in total imbalance. None of those things got put together. But until recently, now we look at it, you are a product of your environment. It's your lifestyle, it's your environment. And yes, there are genetic factors. So none of those things were being looked at. It was name it, blame it, tame it. Let's look for a disease, match the cluster of symptoms, call it a disease, a disorder, PTSD, TBI. Okay, that has an ICD-10 code. Let's match that code. Let's go to the Merck manual and see what drugs are approved for that diagnostic code, and then what's medicate and manage, right? And then send you on your way. And then to them, it's problem solved. Meanwhile,
or problem gone. The problem's no longer
problem
right in front
gone,
of them
not
anymore.
my problem anymore.
Yeah.
Next guy, right? Especially with the VA, they think they're doing something by treating numbers. They're treating numbers. Even everything in our labs, they're treating numbers. They're not treating people. It's disease centric. It's disease management. It's not patient centric. It's not treating the people, not the diseases. We got to get away from this disease model and look at the big picture. And that's what we're pushing with our program. And we can see it within 2 days of testing. I can give you 95% of your answers right there of why you're feeling the way you are. I don't even have to have you answer any questions. I can look at your hormones. I can look at your EEG. I can look at your brain and imaging, and I can look at your cognitive testing and tell you exactly what you're dealing with without, you ever answering one question for me. I'm saying that hypothetical. I'm not a doctor, but when they go through our programs, they can see this stuff.
Right.
And, then they compare it to, okay, let's see where you are with your peer group, because we're seeing all the same thing in all these people. Let's establish a norm. Let's go back before, MEPS when you're there and start getting baselines on people. So when we know they're injured, we have something to reference to go back to put them back where they need to be. Right now, there's none of that. When you get your testosterone checked, you'll be at 302. They move the reference range at 240 now, because they pretty much can't keep anybody in the military above 300. So they keep shifting the reference range to the left. That's a whole nother story. But so what happens is if you fall in the uprights, think of testosterone for an example. The reference range now goes from 250 nanograms per deciliter to 800. All right. If you fall anywhere in those uprights, you are normal. So no age, no optimal, nothing. If you're in the uprights, if that stuff's in your body, by the way, just because it's at a number doesn't mean it's doing anything. You get testosterone of 1,000. If it's bound and not available, bioavailable free testosterone, it's not doing a damn thing in your body. So they look at the number. That's all they're doing is treating numbers, not people, not symptoms, how it's affecting your daily life. They look at the number, and then they tell you that number is not in our guidelines. See you later.
Okay, Geoff. So let's talk about when you guys have noticed all this. You were able to get some help identifying what was going on with everything. You came out with a really big, long paper that you wrote, which is really, really phenomenal and well-written paper. And guys, if you don't know, me and Geoff are both 18 Bravos, or we're weapons guys. So when you hear Geoff saying all this stuff, this is a weapons guy who has gone out and learned all these different medical terminologies and this medical thing to help himself, and it has turned around to where he's now able to help others. So when you got involved in the Task Force Dagger with the SOF Health Initiatives Program, what changes have you guys been able to create or get done that's helping guys now, and what direction are we going in getting all this stuff addressed the proper way rather than the old way of just give them some medicine and let them out?
Two big issues right off the bat that we're forcing change in is heavy metal exposure and toxicity, and hormone imbalances, neuroendocrine dysfunction with TBI. I'm going to tell you right now, the hormone issue is the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to touch it. And here's the craziness, and you probably already know where I'm going with this. The new transgender policy in the military.
Right.
So they're allowing people to change genders and do hormone replacement and hormone therapy to change their sexual identity. But when a man wants to remain a man and perform as a man, it's demonized. It's performance enhancing.
Right.
You're trying to get bigger. You're trying to do this. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, we don't get trophies. We're not athletes.
I was just going to say that there's no cheating in war, and there's no cheating in trying to be able to do your job when your job is to save Americans and save people's lives.
Yeah, when you have testosterone levels of a 90-year-old, you're going to feel like a 90-year-old. And you can't expect to perform. If you're testing hormones and they're in the 200s and 300s in garrison, where do you think they're going to be when you go into combat and pull from there? You're going to be down. When you increase stress in the body, testosterone drops because cortisol production is life-sustaining and critical. So you're already pulling from the 200s and 300s. You're going down. You're not going up under stress. You're not going up under terrible nutrition in combat. You're not going up packed full of heavy metals. None of that's going to happen. You're going lower. So the fact is that under stress, your testosterone goes low anyway. It's called the pregnenolone steal. You rob pregnenolone to produce cortisol, so the hormone pathway switches on the sympathetic side for stress response. To be anabolic, you have to be relaxed. You have to deep sleep. You have to be on the parasympathetic side. We don't do that the way we're supposed to.
No.
So when you're in a stressful environment, always stressed, always on the gas pedal, your testosterone is going to be low. You stress inoculate and you stay down there. You never come back up where you were before you did all that training and all that combat. So your body adjusts to establish a new norm and you stay down there, but guess what? It's not happening. You're not doing any repair. You have no intimacy. Sexual performance suffers. You start falling apart. You're catabolic. You're in wear and tear mode. You stay in the wear and tear mode, you're going to end up broken. There's no if, and, or but about it. Some people last longer, depending on a lot of factors, environment, lifestyle, and genetic factors. But bottom line is that when you don't have the hormones to do the repair and that's how you respond to stress with testosterone. That's how you decision make. If your testosterone's low and your estrogen's up, you're going to decision make like a woman. There's no debating that. That's shown. It's a behavior. It's how you react to your environment. It's not just a repair hormone, but it's how you react to stress in your environment.
Right.
And that's huge. That's been proven through research for hierarchy. They did 8 studies on it to see how the effect of social status affects hormone levels. The bottom the more lower you are in the hierarchy, the lower your testosterone levels are, and the higher up you are, the less stress you have, and the more sexual reproductive abilities you have. So the strong and the dominant keep breeding and carrying on their genes, where the weak die off and don't reproduce. So it's nature. There's no debating this. This is science. So when we work in that environment under all that stress, bottom of the totem pole all the time, your body's going to respond. And we know that. There's no getting around it. And you can't play dumb on the issue and not tell people that putting you in this type of environment is going to have this physiological change on you. That's ignorant, and it's dangerous. It's reckless. Because when people start experiencing all these health issues, they're going to self-medicate, which you shouldn't do. You do more damage that way. People are going to be pumping themselves full of steroids to try to get by, try to get that next deployment, get that next promotion, and they're going to do a lot of damage. And it's a Class 2 controlled substance. They're going to go to jail or lose their career over it. We don't have to do that. We have to educate people about it, and then we have to show them that you shouldn't be putting these things in your body. Once you supplement with this stuff, especially at the levels these people think they know what they're doing, they're going to do significant damage. A lot of people don't know that when estrogen's at a ratio with testosterone, it becomes cancer-causing, becomes carcinogenic. For females, when they do hormone replacement after a hysterectomy, menopause, right, they get put on estrogen. If those estrogen levels go too high out with progesterone, they get cancer.
Right.
If you look at the list of human carcinogens, estrogen is on there. So it's not the testosterone causing the blood clots and the strokes directly. It's the improper administration and the improper ratios of the hormones causing estrogen to go up, and that will cause blood clots and strokes and cancer.
You see, I knew it, Jeff. I knew it. For years, my wife's been telling me that testosterone makes guys dumb, and I've been telling her that estrogen kills guys. So, as much as we make them dumb, they've been killing us for years. So you guys, I'm just trying to lighten the mood, guys. We get real serious here on the show, and we don't want to depress all you guys. The bottom line is there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Guys like Jeff are out there to help. So Jeff, guy that's going through this, and guys, this goes for SOF individual veterans and non-SOF. Those guys that are non-SOF are still being exposed to a lot of these same things. Someone who's either out or getting out, who is not getting what they feel is the proper attention to the problems that they're having. What would you suggest to them, the direction to take to start getting themselves looked at and taken care of in a manner that's going to help them get better for the rest of their lives?
All right, active duty SOF, step number 1, get a care coalition advocate immediately. For veterans and regular conventional forces, there's programs like the War-Related Illness Injury Study Center. It's called the RISC. The VA runs it. One problem, the VA doesn't even know they have their own program or what it does. It looks at deployment and occupational related exposures, and you can request an assessment from them based on where you've been in your environment. Also, there's programs like the PrEP program in Tampa. It's the NICO-like facility for TBI and PTSD in Tampa. It's the premier VA system. One problem with that, no one knows about it. 2, it's backlogged like 8 months. Get out, reach out, know you're not alone, get in these programs, get an advocate, get in groups of people who know what they're doing, people who've recovered like you and myself, and get help. Don't feel like you're struggling through this on your own. Read. Your brain belongs to you. Your health belongs to you. Invest in it. Do the homework, learn how to do research, where to get information from. Don't self-medicate. I'm telling you right now, every addiction starts with a prescription. So
I'm backing him up on this, guys. Self-medication is one of the things that I had a big problem with, and it is something that will lead you down a road you do not want to go to, and it does not have a happy ending.
And if you're in an environment with other people that just want to, look for an excuse and not a solution, and they just want to pop their pills and, put 2 bottles of Jack under their pillow, don't do that, because you're never going to get better. There's no path to recovery doing any of those things. Anytime you poison your body, it never has a chance to recover. So get around the right people, get in the right environment. It's got to be an environment that's conducive to healing, whether it's relationships, whether it's a work environment or a home environment. If it's toxic to you and your health and your recovery, you have to remove yourself. It's like any other toxicity or exposure. Pull yourself from the source, identify the source, get out of it, get in the right environment. And like I said, get educated, educate yourself and empower yourself with the will and the mindset to want to get better and find like-minded people who are in the same boat. So biggest things I can do to give people advice is that. Know that, like I said, there are solutions. There are programs out there. Our program, we run out of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine. There's a bunch of other clinics in Arizona and Colorado and Florida that we're trying to get caught up to speed to offer the same level of care that we have in our program. We want everyone in the same boat. We're not here we don't do it for money. None of us get paid. So this is all, our own time, volunteering, to try to give the solution to offer people help, without, any other type of budget or red tape or bureaucracy attached to it. And that's why we've been so successful, because we don't have any of that on the 501c3 side. We can reach out to anyone we want at any time we want to get them help. It doesn't have to go through all these channels. With that being said, if they are active duty service members, we work by, with, and through their providers. We don't try to bypass anybody or leave anybody out of the loop. This program that we run, the SOF Health Initiatives Program, it's approved by TRICARE, can be done with a referral through internal medicine. I'm using it myself through TRICARE. So we have other people using it through their insurance. So this isn't something that's pseudoscience. It's not ShamWow. It's not voodoo. It is conventional medicine in a different framework, in a different order. And it works. Proof is in the patient. We've had over 30 patients through this, and they can speak their results, their labs, their brain imaging. It all speaks for themselves. Like I said, proof is in the patient. You can see it. You can see where it was before and improvement through biomarkers, looking at your blood, looking at your urine, looking at imaging of your brain, showing inactivity before, and then your brain lighting back up again, showing improvement in the brain. This isn't speculation. This isn't placebo. It's quantifiable. You can see it. So, like I said, if anyone's interested in this program, reach out to myself or you. I'll get you help.
Where can they reach out to you at, Geoff?
So you go to www.taskforcedagger.org. There's an information button about our program. If you're on Facebook, obviously I don't use my real name right now because of work. You can go through your channels and get them on the SOF Health Awareness page. You add them on there. This page is only private for one reason, and so people don't abuse the information. to fish for disability or try to get prescriptions given to them. We have to protect people's privacy, and we have to protect the cause. So if people want to get better, they're going to find a way. If they want an excuse to keep doing what they're doing, they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep looking for excuses and not solutions. So we want people who are serious, that want to get better, and they'll get to us. That's that network. That's your net. We reach out to each other. We get people where they need to go. The information is all out there. You can go to my LinkedIn page, which is my real name, Geoff Dardia. Everything's up there. All the work I've done with the foundation, everything is up there. All new news for research initiatives we have going. Everything we post up there as it comes out. So.
And the available links to reach Geoff will be posted on the show notes in the thing. Those are all the open source places to find Geoff will be on there. If you want to get in touch with the Facebook page, as Geoff said, you can either go through me and reach out to me directly, and I will link you up with Geoff through that, or you can go and find him through taskforcedagger.org. Geoff, I want to thank you for coming on today, man. What you're doing is saving people's lives, and I really mean that. What Geoff and his people have done with what they did saved my life after I was out of the military. When I was in, I wasn't getting what I needed, and by going to his site and going through his program and following along with what he was doing, I was able to get myself to a place where I was feeling better and being able to do more things. So, Geoff's programs are saving lives. What he's done and what he's pointing out does save lives, because both of us sitting on this show right now are both positive proof of that. So I thank you, Geoff, for all the stuff you've been doing for everybody and the efforts you put forward.
Hey, brother, least I can do, like I said, was take care of the family. We might be one big military dysfunctional family, but we need to take care of each other.
That's a true story. Yeah. All right, guys. So I like to say thanks to Geoff, and if you guys, again, I will be putting out some. There are some events that are going to be going on to help support stuff like this. You guys will see that on my page, on my Facebook, and my Twitter, and I'll be posting to it. I think it's September, is it, Geoff? The Raleigh.
Yeah, September 23rd is going to be the big car show up in Raleigh.
Yeah, we're going to be there. Change Your POV is going to be there. We're going to be doing some live stuff from that event. You guys will get to maybe see Jeff's beautiful face on there, and maybe get him to say a few words or something like that. But we'll definitely be out there supporting that effort. So thanks a lot, guys. Remember, as always, you're only going to be limited by what you allow yourself to be limited by. You are in complete control of your entire life. Nobody else is. You can only react the way you can react, the way you allow yourself to react. So remember, do not oppress yourself. Go out there and free yourself. The oppressed will bear, free the oppressed. You guys have a good day. We'll talk to you next week.
Change Your POV and all of its shows can help and heal and even educate. We want you to help us help others. Visit our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/changeyourpov. Become a patron of our network and our mission.